This podcast is brought to you by Balancing Act. Teach, coach, mentor, inspire. A collection of candid observations on the challenges facing business leaders today. Balancing Act is authored by Dr. Andrew Temte and is available today on Amazon and other fine bookstores. On this podcast, we chatted with artist Kimmy Quillin, raised in La Crosse but residing in New York since 2006. We chat about influences, the processes and transitions of painting, hopes for the viewers of the work, what's up next for this prolific painter, and where people can find out more. You can find more conversations, food reviews, live music, and events on our website, lacrosselocal.com. I'm Amy.
And I'm Brent.
And this is La Crosse Local.
My name is Kimmy Quillin. I was born in fabulous La Crosse, Wisconsin, and I started painting, I would say, I guess my whole life I've been always involved in different creative things. Like when I was a kid, I would have like piles of like yarn and clay and like colored pencils just all over the place. But I think in terms of like intentionally painting, I started that in like 2016, because I was trying to buy a coffee shop here in Brooklyn, where I live now. And it was like this crazy long process. I was trying to buy it for my friend. She wanted to move back to Canada, and the deal all fell apart right at the end. I just went from like waking up and like pricing out coffee cups to having nothing to do at all. And I had these paints and some wood at our apartment, and I was like, I don't know, I guess I'll just paint some. It was very spontaneous.
Spending some time with your work the past couple of days, it does kind of look like you went from kind of a mixed media thing to more of these large, colorful pieces. From other artists to music, even to where you live now, what are some of your influences?
I think everything can be an influence, and I definitely take full advantage of just looking around. I go to a lot of museums in New York, which is something that I think you can kind of forget to do living in a place, but I go to museum shows a lot, so those often have a big influence because they're so well curated and they'll be up for many months at a time. I look at a lot of other painters, I look at a lot of photography, and I read a lot. I read a lot of like Buddhist or philosophical books, and I think those kind of give me a lot of ideas for the underlying imagery or the meaning behind the imagery. And then the more visual references can be more of the like direct experience influences. There's this person who just had a show at the Whitney named Salman Tor, and he's a figurative painter, and all of his paintings have this like beautiful kind of like absinthe green tone to them, almost like there's a filter over them. He's doing it all with paint. I was like, man, that's such a cool thing, but it can really come from anywhere, I guess.
What is your process like? Is there, extensive planning? You're talking about kind of those multi-levels there of influences. Are there some that you just jump into the project, or is there a lot of sort of planning as you go along?
I think over the past few years while I've been painting, it has grown from a very spontaneous method to a more planned out method. Like I said, when I first started doing it, it was really just like pure expression and sort of like then making order out of chaos. And now I'm more drawn towards working in a series. So like I'll get into like a really hard phase of something, and I'll want to make like 15 paintings all in that family so that they can kind of work with each other to tell a bigger story, so that you don't have to look at one thing and try and figure out what's going on in there. So now I do more planning, I guess, and I kind of stay in a zone for a little bit longer.
So for someone who hasn't seen your work just yet, how do you feel like your work has transitioned throughout the years? I mean, you definitely kind of spoke to it there, but going from, this, I think, newer work, Rainbow Hot Dog, to Flattened Curves, they do seem uniquely different.
Yeah, I think the red thread for me is definitely the the color harmony in them. Colors are like really important to me. And I grew up in La Crosse and we don't have, a museum that was showing a lot of like contemporary work there. But I think it's important for people to be able to look at something and just enjoy the visual of it kind of on an immediate basis. I think it should primarily have something that you can relate to as a human when you look at it. That's the first thing, is just like a really nice, colorful image. And the ones that I've been working on for the last few years have been more like geometric shapes and working from like straight lines into circles into now more like curved body forms. I kind of got into maybe 2 years ago life drawing, which is usually with a nude model. And it's just given me this whole new appreciation of like the beautiful curves of humans.
So where does Rainbow Hot Dog come from?
Rainbow Hot Dog does come from these classes. So when the pandemic happened and New York was like, the first place to get hit in the US, I have a friend who started leading her life drawing classes online, and she would do it twice a week. And almost instantly, she had like over 100 people coming to these Zoom sessions, and she would pose nude online, which is a totally crazy thing to put yourself out there for. And I was just there in the company of like, 100 other people who were all experiencing lockdown to whatever degree. And the lines that came out of that were just so special. And I think kind of the opposite of what everything else in the world felt like. So then I took the drawings that came out of those classes and kind of like worked them up a bit. And of course, because it was, kind of a dark year, I think these really bright, vivid rainbow colors had to happen because we just needed something to look on the bright side with.
I'm looking through these on your website right now as you're speaking to me. They definitely do seem juxtaposed to 2020 in some ways. What do you hope the viewer gets from your work? You've kind of already said it, but are you happy with someone just saying that's pretty or?
Totally. I think, my brother is really great for me because ever since I started painting, he's insisted that he doesn't get art. And I always love talking with him about that because I'm like, Jack, you don't have to get anything. Art is made by another human being. And so I think the most important thing to get out of looking at any piece of art is that there's another human being on the end of making that piece, and they are trying to tell you about their perspective on life. They're trying to tell you about what is important to them and what they hope you can also kind of get a vision of.
Referencing kind of the newest work being with the lockdown and now kind of open the doors of 2021, what's coming up for you for this year and potentially even 2022?
I have some kind of exciting things that I'm working on right now. In the exit of the pandemic, I was thinking about getting to be able to see my family for the first time and getting to see friends without masks on for the first time. And I was like, man, there's got to be a way to like, I don't know, it makes me a little bit, not nervous, but like almost like crushed with anticipation. And I was like, oh, I want to buy a camera so I can like take photos of this like, hopefully most extended time that we'll all be apart from each other. So I found this really basic like point and shoot camera online, and I started taking photos of people when I see them for the first time in this post-pandemic world. And I think I might actually work on painting some of those photos, which will be just another iteration in this like not very cohesive body of work.
Well, that's a cool idea, getting that sort of initial reaction. So it's just, are you going to jump out in front of people and just...
I'm hoping to startle them and kind of scare them into a really cool photo.
Yeah, I'm sure people need that right now.
Yeah.
So if people want to find out more, follow along, what's the best avenue for them to go to?
I'm on Instagram, which is obviously the most like up-to-date version of internet findings. I also have a website, which is kimmyquillin.com. And if you're in Brooklyn, I'm going to be painting a mural up at a dance studio in Williamsburg that is called Good Move. On Public View, those are the main places to find it right now.
Lacrosse Local Podcast is a production of River Travel Media. Do you have an interview idea you'd like to share with us? Message us on Facebook at Lacrosse Local. Find out more about us at lacrosselocal.com, and you can subscribe to the Lacrosse Local Podcast on your favorite podcast app. If you like us, rate us 5 stars. We appreciate it.